Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Meaningful Motivations with Tracy Erickson. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and in this video, we are going to discuss the Venus in retrograde and the spiritual significance of the retrograde movement of the planet Venus. So stay tuned. It is widely accepted throughout all cultures and all of the ages that the planets in our nighttime sky can have a big impact on our consciousness down here on planet Earth. I like to refer to all of the planets in astrology as spheres of consciousness. So basically, each of the planets in our solar system holds a specific type of consciousness within it. And as those planets move through our night sky into different zodiac signs, those planets can have different impacts on our consciousness, depending on the consciousness of the planet and the direction of the planet's apparent movement. All of the planets in our solar system move on a fixed orbit around the sun, moving in one direction only. But when a planet is retrograde, it is basically the planet moving along its orbit, but giving the illusion or the appearance of moving backwards on its own orbit, basically just based on our earthly perspective. I recently made a video all about Mercury retrograde and how that planet goes into the apparent retrograde motion about 3 to 4 times each year. So in this video, I want to discuss the planet Venus, the consciousness of Venus, and the Venus retrograde that we are currently in right now at the time of this recording. Venus is a little different though, because instead of going retrograde 3 to 4 times each year, Venus only goes into the apparent retrograde motion approximately every 18 months, and the retrograde period lasts 40 days. The planet of Venus is associated with the goddess of sex and love in astrology, and Venus as a planet is going to rule over love, aesthetics, harmony, and relationships. Taschen's Book of Astrology says this about Venus. Because Venus's domain is desire, the planet reveals that which is valued to an individual. It is the planet of money that points to our values. What is worthy of our affection and cash? What gives us pleasure? Similarly, Venus governs love and relationships, indicating how we relate to others or express affection. When Venus is prominent in horoscopes, it signifies union, peace, compromise, and affection, as well as an appreciation and ease with beauty or self-presentation. Since Venus goes retrograde every approximately 18 months for 40 days, we are currently in a Venus retrograde that started on March 1st and will end on April 12th. And the next Venus retrograde will happen on October 3rd, 2026 through November 13th, 2026. Venus retrograde could affect you in different ways, especially when it comes to relationships. So during a Venus retrograde, you may question the dynamics of your current relationships, or you may reflect on whether or not your needs are actually being met within those relationships. You may also hear from or see an old flame or a friend that you've had in the past. So Venus retrograde is a time for you to take a look at your relationships, but it's also a time that old, past relationships could come back around once again. Venus retrograde is also a time that you may feel it's time to reevaluate your financial goals and how you're spending your money. It's a time to reflect on your own values and what is important to you. What do you put value into? Venus retrograde is also a time when it comes to beauty or art that you will find yourself questioning what is beautiful. And you may even revisit old creative projects that you've placed kind of on the back burner. And Venus retrograde is also a time to evaluate your self-worth. It's a time to focus on self-worth and what it is that you are giving to the world. Since the planet Venus is all about beauty, value, self-worth, and relationships, there are certain things during a Venus retrograde that you may want to avoid so that you don't become victim to the retrograde energies. During a Venus retrograde, it is advised to avoid making major decisions when it comes to relationships, finances, or beauty. Basically, any of the things that Venus is all about. So during a retrograde, when it comes to relationships, it would be important to avoid starting a new romantic relationship. That is because some of the past issues that you've had in previous relationships could possibly resurface, and your clarity could be obscured when Venus is in retrograde. You should also refrain from major relationship decisions. So this is not a good time to become engaged, to have a wedding, or to break up. Because as soon as Venus goes direct, your feelings might change regarding that situation. And it will be very important to be very mindful to rekindle relationships. So if you have an ex that reappears in your life during a Venus retrograde, it will be important for you to assess if the situation truly has changed or if it's just this retrograde that stirs up these old emotions. When it comes to finances during a Venus retrograde, it's important for you to hold off on large purchases or financial commitments because it's just not a good time to make these big purchases, especially if it's related to luxury items. And you should also just be mindful of spending in general. So during a Venus retrograde, you should just avoid making impulsive spending or financial decisions at this time. When it comes to beauty and your appearance, Venus retrograde is a time that you need to avoid any drastic change to your appearance. So, Venus retrograde is not a good time at all to have a cosmetic procedure, to get a dramatic haircut, or to change your hair color, for instance. And you should also delay any beauty treatments or other cosmetic procedures during a Venus retrograde because it's like you're just not seeing yourself clearly during the retrograde season of Venus. Similar to the advice of a Mercury retrograde, during a Venus retrograde, you should focus more on self-reflection than on things outside of yourself. Because that apparent retrograde motion, it gives the illusion of the planet rather than moving away from you, it's moving in towards you. So, during a Venus retrograde is the perfect time to reflect on yourself, your own values, and the qualities that you want to give to the world. It is also very important during a Venus retrograde to avoid dwelling in the past. So even outwardly, if an ex or an old friend comes back into your life during a Venus retrograde, it is important to keep yourself at a slight distance as you move through that situation. But when it comes to self-reflection as well, you should avoid internally dwelling on things that have happened in the past, what went wrong in the past, and things you wish could have gone differently in the past. So basically, when it comes to self-reflection during Venus retrograde, it is important not to get stuck on the negative aspects of your past. During a Venus retrograde, it is so important to be patient and mindful to yourself and to others, because Venus retrograde is a time for introspection. And it's a time to realign your values once again. It's a time to take a personal inventory of your relationships, your finances, and your self-worth. So don't be hard on yourself or impatient through this process. Just let it flow through you naturally as you take a look at these different areas of your life and realign those areas with your current values. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button. And if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you have subscribed, you can turn on that notifications bell if you want to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.